The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Welcome to the Happiness Jungle. My name is CamiBaker.com, and I am the guest host today. And our guest today is so yummy. I'm excited for all of our guests because we handpick everyone on a mission, everyone method and some madness. We've got speakers and authors and all kinds of global influencers. But today is a friend of mine, Sunil, whom I met, oh gosh, about 4 or 5 years ago now. I saw him speak on a big stage in California, and I just knew when I heard him speak that I needed what he had, and I hired him to help me with a meetup that I put together. So without further ado, Sunil, tell our viewers a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, I'm the founder of what's called the Global Business Mastermind, and it's a very unique mastermind, very highly innovative. We use an innovative structure incorporating Meetup, LinkedIn, and Google, and collaborative partnerships to very affordably, in a high return on investment manner, create marketing audiences that convert into clients for mostly small businesses through entrepreneurs and visionaries who want to generate an audience that's mostly organic, in other words, in person as well as digital online. So I think we've cracked the code in doing that. I also have a network of about 120,000 business owners and professionals now across the country, in Canada and in the United Kingdom, all spread out in various meetup groups that I've helped start or I'm engaged with, etc. So in a nutshell, that's what I do. And my vision is to have 100 million joyful and successful entrepreneurs in the world by 2027. So I feel like, the methodology we're using with Meetup is certainly contributing to that vision being fulfilled. So
120,000. I was going to ask you. I want to say when we first met, it was 40 or 50,000. So you've done a lot. And just like anything else, the compound effect. Now that it starts to grow, it really starts to grow.
Yeah. It's a testimony to something that's innovative, and people are hungry for this because most marketing can be very expensive, and the options are not very glorious. You have to either spend a lot of money to make a lot of money, or find some way that you can craft your own way. In the course of finding my own way of marketing and finding an audience, I found this way that could be actually used for other people, and so I'm happy to share as much as I can on this show with you. So, yeah.
I know a couple of years ago, you and I were going to do a little bit of partnering when I was doing Make Money with Meetup, MakeMoneyWithMeetup.com. And I still, to a certain extent, do that. And the fact that I help my clients to use all kinds of ulterior ways to build business relationship. Instead of traditional networking that doesn't necessarily work, I've got a lot of clients that I'm working with right now. And I talk to them about, like, if they've got a brick and mortar business and they've got extra space or a place where people can come together, first thing we do is go on Meetup, find the local Meetup groups, and invite them to come on down and set up a meeting. And whether it's a gym or a restaurant or a hair, any of these folks that I'm working with, it gets people to come to their place. And then just today, conversation about how Meetup and LinkedIn and YouTube are great for SEO. Talk a little bit about that, about how you can really optimize your search engine optimization through Meetup and LinkedIn.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize this, but I get about 30% of my business, and quite a number of my clients do as well, from people finding them on Google. But the people who find them on Google do not find their website. They find their Meetup groups. So when you set up Meetup groups correctly, and I emphasize correctly because a lot of people have tried doing it on their own and they failed because this takes a little bit of know-how on how to do it right. But if you set it up correctly, you're going to save a lot of money on your SEO And but you have to be willing to generate an audience like how you described. But if you're willing to do that, it's a far more effective and far more affordable, I'll dare say cheaper way of doing marketing that yields very good results. Yeah.
Well, I'm a testament to what you do, because years and years now I've been going to thousands of networks. I've spoken at hundreds of them, but then when I thought, you know what, I am going to do my own meetup. I never wanted to do one because I didn't want to have to babysit it or maintain it, because I'm kind of a gypsy. I'm all over the place. But when I did decide to do a meetup, I hired you. And because of that, I don't remember exactly the numbers, but within 48 hours, we had like 300 members in the group, and the meetup that we were putting together was full to capacity. And within 72 hours, we were 75% over capacity, with people waiting to be able to come. So the way that you teach it, can you talk a little bit about that, just in general terms, what the average person would want to know? Sure.
Yeah. You can generate a meetup if you do it correctly. If it's a decent city size like Boston, it's not inconceivable to get 7,200 people in your tribe. By tribe, I mean your common meetup groups. Now, the way I do it is different from a lot of other meetup people. I just don't do one group. I have many groups, just like I did with you, Cami. And many groups doesn't mean more work. In fact, it leaves less work per unit time, because when you have many groups which are targeting different kinds of people, women entrepreneurs, for example, real estate people, real estate investment people, mortgage brokers, etc., and you have them all funnel into 1 or 2 events per month, then you're now cooking with a lot of gas. In fact, you're cooking with nuclear power. So you have that concentration of people coming in, and that creates excitement for Meetup to want to promote you. Because you only do one event. Once in a while, you have one group. Meetup's not that excited about promoting you. It just doesn't make sense, because it doesn't serve their community to highlight you. But if you have many groups, and wow, this seems to be a common thread. And if you set it up organically and honestly, then Meetup will promote you very well.
Well, let me just give a little bit of context for that, because for people who don't understand what we're talking about, how can you have all these groups going to one? But just for an example, to have real estate, if you're going to teach a real estate, so one of my examples is I can have a group that's about women realtors. I can have a group that's about seasoned realtors, and I can have a group that's about brand new realtors. But the material that I'm teaching is all the same. But when each group, those women will find themselves, and the seasoned people want to hang out with seasoned people, etc. But then you have one event that they're all invited to talk about real estate. When they get there, it's kind of funny. There was an event I went to in Boston several years ago where it said women speakers are in high demand. So myself and several other women were going to this event, and we had to say, can we go? And we said, no, this is for women speakers. Well, we get there, there's 200 people in the room, and about 80% of it was men. And as we were looking around, we realized that in the marketing, they had a marketing piece that said, women realtors are in high demand. And then there was another marketing piece that said, speaking is the highest paid profession. And that was geared towards men. But at the end of the day, it was all the same material bringing people in. So just for our viewers to understand what we're talking about. So give an example of all those groups that you have in the Bay Area. What kind of an event that you're inviting all these different groups to?
Well, we've got several examples. But, the example that's closest to my heart is, I do marketing workshops on Meetup. So I have one group that could be startup and tech entrepreneurs, a very large group I have, anywhere from 5,000 to 47,000 people, depending on the collaborator I'm using. And then I have another group that's just women entrepreneurs. And then I have another group that's just coaches and healers. Then I have another group that are just conscious or spiritually based entrepreneurs. But all of them come to the marketing workshop or mini Meetup. And they all find extreme value in it because they're all coming for the same reason. Even though they're different demographics, they have the same desire, the same want, which is marketing help. So if you identify the common want or the desire in your target markets, which most of you should be able to, otherwise you're really spinning your wheels a lot, I would imagine. But if you have a common thread, then emphasize that. And you can have people showing up at your meetup events with this if you're doing it correctly. You do an educational presentation. It doesn't have to take too long, 30 to 45 minutes. Do a quick upsell to either a free consultation or a paid offering. And you're pretty much done. And it's a good way to do it because people like that nowadays. They like in-person. It sounds grotesque, but it's true. They like to smell you, feel you, see you in front of you, and taste you. And then when they build that amount of trust, they're more willing to buy from you.
Well, I'm glad to hear that because I'm best belly-to-belly, face-to-face. I like to interact. And actually, for our viewers to know, the way that Meetup got started was with guys after 9/11 happened in New York City. They wanted to give a platform for people to actually meet up belly-to-belly, taste each other, as you say. So it is. Yeah. But then they also have the virtual aspect, but you have to have a physical in order to have a virtual. Talk about that for a moment.
Sure. Yeah. One of the best things a lot of people don't understand about Meetup is that you can do webinars as long as you follow Meetup policies. And the policy is that for every in-person event that you hold, you can have a webinar. Meetup wants you to have, you can't just join Meetup and just do online webinars all the time. It doesn't work, and you shouldn't be doing that. That's not how it builds. How it builds is you do an in-person event, and then for every in-person event, you do a webinar. So if you do 2 in-person events a month, you can do 2 webinars a month, et cetera, et cetera. So when you do that, it gets more interesting because now you're no longer geographically limited. Once you can do webinars and can promote, you can, how we do it in our mastermind is people in Houston could do a webinar to people in San Jose from another collaborator and vice versa. And you don't have to travel to San Jose. You don't have to pay money to get a place or anything. You can do it fairly quickly and fairly effectively. It serves the community. That's the key thing. You've got to make sure that everybody gets served in this game. The people are collaborating with you. The audiences are served. You're not just trying to come in there and sell and not educate people. People like to be educated a little bit, but not too much. They will buy. They're pretty serious. About 20% of the people who come are pretty serious about buying. But the remaining 80%, maybe tire kickers, etc. But the truth is, what I do is I put those 80% of the people in my email list, and quite a number of them buy over time. So it really is not a lot of maintenance to make it happen.
Well, I'm asking you a lot of questions that you and I have already covered, but they're questions that I know that our viewers are going to be interested in. So when we start talking about monetizing and how 20% are buyers, one of the questions that comes up is, do I charge for my meetup? Do I have free meetups or do I charge $10? And I've walked on that fence many a time. Well, there's this. And then what is your thought on all that?
My general thought is you don't charge for meetups or meetup events, and I know some people are already heaving a sigh of grief or something because, they think that people don't show up with commitment when you don't pay, but it's actually quite the opposite. When you have a wider funnel of people coming in, that 20% of the people are more likely to show up. When you charge people, what we found is it's not the money or the cost that stops people from signing up. It's the time it takes to get out your credit card, put it through the machine, or type in the information. People don't want to do that, especially busy people. So if you make it easier, you're more likely to get a wider swath of people. Now, having said that, in the last couple of years since you've been active in this, we've actually tested out paid meetups. And like in Toronto this morning, I was talking to my mastermind people there, and they had a really good successful experiment where they charged for a meetup and they made about $300 or $400 that covered the location expense right off the bat. And they got about 100 RSVPs. About 1/3 of them will at least show up and pay the ad-door fee, which is about $30. So they'll probably make another, I don't know, whatever it is, $450 or whatever. And when you look at that, what I tell people then as an overall answer is you may need to test it out like a lot of marketing. But even if you do it for free, and if you're in a major city or even in a lower city and you're willing to do a little bit of regional marketing, you're very likely to still get a very good engagement, however you do it, whether it's paid or unpaid. But we recommend generally doing unpaid because it's just a lot easier. And it keeps the flow coming in. You see, the important thing is let the ease of people coming into your network be more present. And you see, then it kicks into Google, because what Google does is over 6 or 7 months checking you out. If you have 15 groups that's posting events, at some point, if you have the right crosslinks, it's going to start benefiting your website as well. So to charge people may actually impede that flow and actually come back and hit you in a negative way. Even though you might make a few bucks on the front end, you're going to make way more money on the back end. There are meetup events where I've had maybe 5 or 6 people show up in the early days, but 1 or 2 of those people will write me a $10,000 check on the spot. I'm not guaranteeing this, obviously, but I'm just saying people have done that, right? So, why would you limit that flow? You see, and that person may be so busy that he may not be willing to take out a credit card and pay $30 for your meetup fee. It just may make some more sense to do it the other way around.
Let me ask you a little bit of a technical question in that when you have a lot of different meetings that are a lot of different groups that are feeding into a meeting. So you mentioned having 15 groups. So you got 15 groups. How does the meetup know that they are interconnected?
Well, Meetup doesn't really, which is good, because it doesn't need to. But how it doesn't benefit you that Meetup knows about it, because they're all independent groups, but they have the same event posted on each of those groups. So let's say you have group 1 through 5, but you have one event that you're holding once a month. And that event is at 5:30 p.m., let's say, downtown Toronto on Tuesday, March 15th. So you post that same event, the same information on each of those groups. So you have one event, really, that you're managing, but you have all these groups pretty much feeding into that one event per month. So there's not a lot of work, apart from copy and paste, which our admins do very, very easily. But in the early days, when I was doing it myself, and I had about 20 groups or so myself, I did it myself, and it took me about, honestly, time-wise, apart from going to the event, which I did twice a month, I spent about maybe 5 to 6 hours administering Meetup a month. And I think that's an overestimate, to be honest with you. Minimal, really minimal. And when you have as you get more sophisticated and savvy, and right now, I frankly lost track of how many Meetup groups I have across the world. But my admins know. But, and if you set it up correctly, you can train a pretty good admin, decent admin. You don't have to pay a lot of money. You could use a Filipino admin to support you in that, and it's quite effective. Very, very cost effective to do it that way, and it saves you a lot of time.
So one of the questions I get all the time is, where do you find one of these Filipino admin?
Yeah, well, like a lot of entrepreneurship, I tell people you got to really bring patience to the game, because if you're patient for a month or so, you're bound to get a really good admin. Or it's a good chance you'll find a really good admin that might last you a couple of years. That's exactly what happened for me. I have actually 3 admins right now who are working with me. They're all stellar, really great people. Some of them will admit this too. When they first came on board, they weren't really that good. But I work with them. I train them. And there's certain ways that you can train people so that they can do duplicatable tasks. And if you put initial accountability into it and spend a little bit more time up front, then it gets a lot easier as you go along. A lot of the admins, they do their work almost on clockwork. I don't really have to check up on them too much. So how do you find these people? Well, sometimes, truthfully, it's through some trial and error. But through my mastermind now, I have some good sources of admins that we use, and they've proven to be a pretty good source of administrative help for us.
Let's talk about your mastermind. You've mentioned that a few times. I know I've sat in on it a couple of times. I know, you have it every week, and there is just a plethora of information. There's more information in those meetings than anyone could ever use. It's just so much. So talk a little bit about how people join. What does it look like? Give us the scoop.
Well, we're pretty selective, honestly. And I know a lot of people say we're selective, but we really are selective in one primary way. And I know you fit into this, so you understand this very well. We are all about building community, really. And so if you're into building community, then you pass the first hurdle to come join us. The intention of the mastermind is to build your audience locally first to about 7,200 people. That's your total meetup audience. It's not your clientele, obviously. Now, after that, within a certain reasonable period of time, depending on the market you're in, we want to get you 8 to 15 people showing up in your in-person events and your webinars. And that should be a 20% conversion if you do things correctly. So chronologically, what happens in the mastermind is when I have a free 15-minute consultation with people who want to join, and they can come, have a conversation, see if you're a match, see if it makes sense in the market geographically and where they're at. And then if they want to join, then there's a fee to join, obviously, and it's currently it's $6,000 to join for a 1.5-year engagement. And the first month and a half, I work one-on-one with the person who signs up to make sure that their branding is on par. Because if your branding is on par, I can market you to my people. I can help you collaborate with the mastermind people. There are about 90 people in our mastermind right now across the world. And it's very beautiful when it's done correctly. So the branding means your offers. Your offers have to be clear, compelling, sexy, hot. If you have to over-explain it, then it doesn't really quite make sense. And once that hand-holding phase is done, I also, in that hand-holding phase, make sure you set up your meetup group correctly and your meetup event correctly. I actually hand-hold you to make sure it's done correctly. I'll literally sit down with you over Zoom call, etc., and make sure it's done right. So I bring a lot of high qualities. I'm the head honcho, but I'm also the guy who makes sure that quality's in and people are taken care of. And then concurrent with that, every week we have a group mastermind call. There are 2 calls now, one for the East Coast, Europe, and Canada, and another call for the Pacific crowd. And they're both really boisterous crowds, a lot of engagement. It's an 1.5-hour call. The first half is collaborative. We look at collaborative opportunities that almost anybody can participate. And very easy to participate. You can do webinars now. The way I set it up and made it easier is we can set up a webinar collaboration within 6 hours. So that means from the time you get the idea having a webinar to actually doing a webinar could be 6 hours and promoting it and actually having people in front of you. And so that's collaborative. And then there's, like you said, a lot of content. I teach people how to do webinars on the meetups, using Meetup to promote your webinars, how to use LinkedIn in collaboration with Meetup. Because when you learn how to do that, you can reach the high-level collaborators on LinkedIn. And this is something I found a couple of years back. The only reason a lot of high-level collaborators wanted to connect with me are 2 reasons. One is my narrative was very compelling, very interesting. What I'm doing, very unique. Not many people on Meetup have figured it out. But secondly, I have an audience that I can demonstrate. I can show people I have it on Meetup. Nothing I can hide about it. It's right there. So it's very transparent, and people like that, especially the high-level collaborators. So when you use LinkedIn in conjunction with Meetup, like I teach you how to do, then you can start getting really good high-level speaking gigs. Chambers of commerce want to collaborate with you if you're open to that kind of market. Trade associations. And, it's really tough to get speaking gigs these days. It's really competitive, almost combative to get a gig and get paid for it. But if you do it this way, see, a speaking organization would love to hire you if you have an audience, because it then makes complete sense, because you can promote your event that you're speaking to to your groups as well.
That's true. You know, when you talk about that it's so transparent and you can see how many people are a part of your meetup, I hadn't thought about that. And I haven't been on the calls nearly as much as I could. And when you talk about incorporating LinkedIn, every time I talk to you, I think, ooh, I got to get back on that call. Ooh, I'm missing out. Ooh, damn, I'm missing out again.
We miss you. You should come back, definitely. Yeah. I talk you up quite a bit. And you know, there's just so much opportunity. It's crazy. I mean, the city of Chicago reached out to us when we saw what we were doing. They want to be the next Silicon Valley, see? And they understand now, a lot of cities understand now that the key to generating business is creating an ecosystem. When you create an ecosystem, example, meetups, communities, different communities coming together, different collaborators, now you're cooking with more gas, you see. And it's a more effective way than what's been done in the past with all the traditional kinds of business development. Nothing against them. It's just, it's kind of slow and it doesn't engage people as much on the ground. So when you engage people on the ground and digitally online, it's a great combination to do both.
Well, and the fact that it's so, SEO friendly and it's just so easy to repurpose content and to your point, to show, what you've got going on. We got about 90 seconds left, Sunil. What would you like our viewers to know?
Well, I think some of you are thinking, is this going to work for me? And how will it work? And I can tell you something, I don't like wasting people's time, and I certainly don't want my own time to be wasted because I've got a big vision to go on. I've got a lot of things to do, But I think a handful of you, quite a number of you are interested in having a conversation. I'm more than happy to have a conversation with you. I didn't quite mention this, it's my website, but my other website that you can use to schedule a 15-minute conversation with me, and it's totally free, there's no charge for it, is www.meetupchat.com. So like chat, like talking, meetupchat.com, meetupchat.com. And we can set up a time to talk. And that's probably the best way to get engaged. And I can answer your questions and see if it really makes sense for you. Because we're still in a building phase. I don't want to reveal this secret to everybody in the world because I think it'll get corrupted. People will misuse it and then it will harm everybody. So I only want to expose the secret to a few people like Cami and other people like you out there who may feel inclined to find out more about this, and I'm happy to share. Let's see if we're matching.
I can certainly share from my own experience that if you're in business and you want to maximize it, give Sunil a call. We're out of time. Happiness Jungle. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.